right, we're recording and I'll get us started. Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch another great interview today that I've been excited to do for quite a while. And this is a very dear friend of mine and my wife, and she's busy and we're busy. And so sometimes our schedules don't line up, but we were able to make it work today. And I really believe that you are going to enjoy the things that this lady has to say. She is certainly one of our dearest friends, one of our closest friends. The things that she's going to talk about in regards to natural health and stuff, I trust her. I trust her enough. I've been in her home. I've eaten in her home. In fact, my wife and I were married in her home. So we really trust her. I've seen how she lives, and when she talks about whether it's diet or health or just clean living, I trust her and believe her. And so I want to welcome Mayim to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today and just to kind of open up and talk about, well, I mean, the last few years have been kind of crazy when it comes to personal health, and I don't think we're done yet. So people need to probably be hearing some of the messages that you've been talking about over the last few years of how to get yourself healthier and to prepare and to deal with illnesses that come along without having to, get a thing in your arm or something like that and go down that path. So anyways, Mayim, thank you for joining us.
Hey, shalom, Travis. I love you guys so much. Your wife is one of my absolute best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we joke around sometimes when we say that I'm her Asian sister. Actually, she's Asian in a lot of ways too, the way she does certain things. I just love her. I love you guys. I miss you guys so much. I can't wait to come and visit you guys again, with our children and everything.
Sure.
And
yes.
I'd also like to say, because this is free, and it's not going to be on YouTube, right? Because if it's going to be on YouTube.
No, we're not on YouTube because I know we'll talk about things that they won't like. So we're going to be on.
Okay.
So we can say whatever we want today.
Okay. Thank you. So I have a fake background here because my background on my wall is very boring. But I want to say that I love your background. I love the guns. I want to tell a little story of so sometimes for date night we go, my husband and I, we go shooting, and sometimes we'll just shoot, like do virtual shooting, like with a real gun, but like a video game type setup. And we were doing that, and I was taking pictures of us shooting a real gun but without any bullets. And I posted it on Facebook, and people were like, oh, what are you doing? Like, oh my goodness, they're going to get you. They're going to, I'm like, people, are we in a free country or not? Because if we live in a free country, we better start acting like it. We better stop acting like we're afraid all the time, because that's how we begin to lose our freedoms. We have to exercise our freedoms as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Number one, carry guns. Number two, homeschool your children if you can. And really, I believe anyone can. I think, a lot of times with, I don't know, this isn't what we scheduled, to talk
whatever
about.
You want to talk about is fine with me.
Yeah. You said we could talk about whatever.
That's
so.
right.
Well, let's talk about homeschooling first.
You're very smart and knowledgeable and just, a good person. And I know that anything you have to say, everyone's going to want to listen. So
yeah, I mean,
feel led to say.
I think that, it's all about truth, freedom, and health, right? Everything that I do is about truth, freedom, and health. Whether it's about religion or politics or health, it's just all of these put together. And anyways, so we gotta get guns. We need to homeschool as much as possible. And
that's right.
A lot of people feel like, I can't afford it, but I feel like you can't afford not to.
I know it.
For number one, the health of your children, because they're forcing vaccines, and who knows what's next? I mean, vaccines, that's enough. They're
Right.
poisoning our children's bloodstreams
Yes.
with these forced vaccines. And in a lot of places, there's not even an opportunity to sign a waiver. They'll do it even without your knowledge if they can. I mean,
Hmm.
if they'll give your children abortions without your knowledge, of
Right.
course they're going to vaccinate your children if they can, even without your knowledge. I mean, they're working on, they want to inject your children with hormones
Hmm.
without your knowledge, if
Yep.
possible. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
you, why would you, like, no one would trust strangers to come into their house and babysit for their children. But why do you send them off to strangers
Right.
8 hours per day and let them not just babysit? Because at least when you're hiring a babysitter, they're supposed to be doing what you say. But when you send them off to public school,
Right.
it's their agenda, it's their religion, it's their ethics, I mean, anyways, so this is
Yeah.
not a
It was,
homeschooling.
no, that's fine. I
but,
just last week I was reading that the governor of New Mexico signed a law that schools can or that I'm sorry, not school, but children, underage children, through the help of schools or social workers or the government, can get abortions and actually start getting hormone therapy and sex changes without their parents' permission or notification.
and
So if your
probably on our
yeah.
tax
So if your
dollars.
child's going to a public school and they tell the counselor or the teacher that they're a boy, not a girl, they can schedule them appointments and do the whole thing. And your child will come home or the school will call you. Yeah, your child's in the hospital. She got he got a sex change. She got a sex change. I mean,
Yeah,
what kind of mad, crazy world we live in?
yeah. And from a health perspective, it's obvious and logical, but a lot of times people don't ever think about this. Is that when you do these things to children, you pump them with hormones, and especially if you do things that are extremely permanent, when you
Mhm.
you know when you mess with them that way, you think you're doing them a favor by giving them what they want, but oftentimes what you're actually doing is you're robbing them of many things. Number one, oftentimes you're robbing them of the opportunity to reproduce.
Mhm.
Okay. But not only that, and this is an adult show, so we can talk about this. Oftentimes you're also often robbing them of just the mere ability to orgasm, which
Mhm.
is also crazy.
Oh yes.
And just a lot of times take away their sex drive. I just heard a testimony not too long ago about a man who was who I think he grew up Muslim or something like that, and it's an Islamic country. And he was a man, and he was homosexual, and he liked to dress up as a woman. Um, but he was very comfortable in his skin that way. And then the way he explained it is, and then he got brainwashed to start hating his body,
Mm.
and that led to him getting hormones and him eventually, castrating himself and getting this fake vagina
Mhm.
and uh, implants, and that caused all sorts of health problems for
Yeah.
him. And
Yeah.
when you get this sex change, is this fake vagina, like your body, he was explaining that your body will always treat it like a wound, you
Yeah.
know, and it
Yeah.
will never give you the pleasure
Mhm.
like a real vagina or a penis.
Mhm.
And so you're just robbing yourself and your children, if you're doing it to your children,
Right.
of some very basic pleasures. So it's almost like, saying, oh, you don't want your tongue anymore, let's cut it off,
Yeah.
because you know what I mean. And then they never get to enjoy food ever
I know.
again. I mean, it's kind of worse than that, I
Yeah,
think,
it
but
is.
it's very much like that. It's just craziness. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
and I'm pretty sure you believe this way because I know a lot about how you believe. It's also, you know, sex, the act of sex, especially and really importantly in a marriage, is a very spiritual thing. It's a very holy thing. Most we live in a world that sex is just perversion. It's just to feel good, and it's very perverted, and there's nothing wrong with it being pleasurable, but it's also I believe, a very spiritual thing, that union between a man and a woman under the Father, and and they're also taking that away, that ability for that away. So, you could also look at this as, there's a spiritual aspect to this, that how many of these people will never be able to experience, especially if this happens when they're young, as a child or a teenager, may not ever be able to experience not just the physical aspect of a man and a woman together, but that spiritual union. When a man and a woman comes together, there is something spiritual there. I mean, God created the act. It's not, sex isn't dirty. It can be perverted, but it's obviously it's how he created us, and they're taking that ability away also.
Yeah, or at least making it extremely,
Oh yeah,
extremely
extremely.
difficult.
Yeah, there's a doctor on Twitter that I follow, and she posts screenshots. I don't know where she gets them, but apparently there's some type of chat group or message board or something for people that have had these sex changes. And it's absolutely, I mean, it's sad, but it's also crazy what they'll comment, to be a woman that had a, I don't even remember what they call it, but had a penis sewed on her, a fake one. And she will comment about how she can't be aroused. She can't have an orgasm, or a man that's had a vagina put on, and how he can't be aroused. He doesn't understand why it's not working,
Yeah.
because it's not natural. It's not supposed to be, I mean, and it's sad that that we've ended up in this world. I mean, that we've ended up here in the world. I mean, it's sad, and it's pretty sick, especially when you look at the stuff that's being done to kids.
Yeah, it's sad, it's crazy, and there's nothing new under the sun. There
Yeah,
was a time when barbers were the doctors, and they would, let people's blood, and we think that we've advanced, but I'm sorry, but I don't see how what we're doing is any better, and a lot of times worse
right.
than what was done before.
I
And
agree.
there's so much done in the name of quote unquote science. It's ridiculous.
Hmm.
I used to be a computer scientist at NASA Ames Research Center, and the reason why I like to bring that up is because people who are holistic minded and reject pharmaceuticals, and reject vaccines, and reject modern medicine and all that, were often accused of being irrational, unscientific. Oh, you nutty homeschool moms
Right.
that don't vaccinate. And that could be further from the truth. Actually, my friends that don't vaccinate, many of them are extremely intelligent,
Hmm.
degrees, or and actually that's one of the lies that they promoted is that people that don't vaccinate are uneducated,
Right.
stuff like that. Actually, in the very beginning, the people that were refusing vaccinations were people that had high incomes and
Hmm.
that were very educated.
Right.
So it's a myth that things that are holistic are unscientific or irrational, et cetera, et cetera. It's ridiculous to think that way.
Hmm.
Um, in fact, I think that it takes a lot more faith. It takes a lot more, closing your eyes and faith,
Right.
trust, just trust, not based on evidence, but pure trust in the system than holistic health and healing that has worked
Right.
for thousands of years, actually.
Exactly. I mean, if it doesn't work, then how have we as a species continued to exist? I mean, modern pharmaceutical medicine really didn't come on the stage till after 1900. 1920s, 1930s is when you first started seeing a lot of the synthetic stuff come into existence. Well, how did people take care of themselves? How did people, cure illnesses and stuff? Well, it's always been done, like you said, holistically. So it's not the pharmaceutical stuff. That's the new stuff. That's the really the untested stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's really untested.
Hmm.
Um, and they say that it's proven, but proven,
Right.
all that really means is that oftentimes in their quote unquote scientific research, their studies that say that they're proven, it means that 51% versus 49%. Oftentimes this is when it means that 51% in their study uh, felt better or whatever, just
Mm-hmm.
had a positive result,
Mm-hmm.
versus 49%. But 51%, versus 49%, you're gonna
Right.
you're gonna gamble
Right.
based on that. And people don't realize that. People don't realize that the real study comes out when they release it to the public.
Mm-hmm.
And very oftentimes they don't get the real results until thousands of people have died. And
Right.
that's the same thing with vaccines as well. But
Sure.
I don't think it's limited to vaccines. I've been anti-vax since 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly the COVID vaccine is the worst one that has ever come on the scene. It's not even a real vaccine.
Right.
I'm sure you said this, but that the COVID vaccine has killed and injured more people than all the other vaccines
Yep.
in the past combined.
Yep.
And that was expected. They knew that. They knew that the technology that they put in the vaccines would kill about a third of the people that it was used on. They knew that, and it exactly happened just as they tested in their expert scientific studies.
Right. There was
And
a
in the results, it works. It's very
Yep.
effective at what they wanted it to do.
Mm-hmm. There was a study that came out just, I believe it was last week or week before. It wasn't necessarily a study. It was just a report from the British Health Ministry, I believe. And they didn't really broadcast this, but someone found it on their website. And last year, 90%, it was like 90.2% of the people that died in the United Kingdom that was listed as a COVID death were fully vaccinated. Like they had all their boosters and everything. 90% of the deaths of COVID last year were vaccinated, fully vaccinated people. I mean,
Yeah. We all know that getting the vaccine made you more prone to die
mm-hmm,
from COVID, aka the vaccine, aka the so-called treatments that they were giving at the hospital.
mm-hmm,
The so-called virus was the least dangerous of them all.
sure.
I would say second would be the vaccine, and I would say the deadliest part of the whole fiasco were the treatments that people were getting in the hospital.
Mm-hmm,
So one thing that we had talked about, like, what are we going to discuss? If we were, they've been talking about, oh, there's another pandemic coming around. What
mm-hmm.
should we do? What should we do? I think the most important thing that we can do is stay away from hospitals
Yeah.
and pharmaceutical drugs and conventional medical doctors. Just
Mm-hmm,
stay away. If you just stay away, your chances of surviving will be much higher. Of course,
mm-hmm,
there's a lot of things that you can do proactively and preventatively, but the basic thing that you can do is stay away. I think another really basic thing that you can do is do not drink their water.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Treat that thing
Yes.
very good.
I would rather drink out of the creek that runs behind our house than to drink city water. And I've drank. I mean, I don't advise drinking surface water, but it's a spring-fed creek, and I've never had any problems. But I can't remember the last time I drank like city water, chlorinated, fluoride water without going through a good filter or reverse osmosis process.
Yeah.
It's been years, years and years, and I just won't do it.
No. I especially won't do it because I have hypothyroidism,
Mm-hmm.
and the fluoride in tap water is very bad for your thyroid. And even if you don't have hypothyroidism, most people in the world today are deficient in iodine because
Mm-hmm.
of that, because of the fluoride in the water, number one, and number two, because of the overabundant use and increasing use of bromide,
Mm-hmm.
bromine in our world today. And they primarily use that because of to make things flame retardant, to keep
Mm-hmm.
things from catching on fire easily. But it has taken a toll on our health, and
Right.
most people are deficient in iodine because of that. So there's two things that I really want to talk about here.
Sure.
One of them was the video series that I think it was Stu Peters did
Mm-hmm.
with Dr. Brian Ardis. called Watch the Water. I recently watched part 1, and a part 2 has come out, and I need to watch that soon. Part 2 is basically just more proof of part 1. And I have both of the videos on my website at arukah.com, arukah.com/watch-water. If you could put that in the show notes.
Absolutely, I will.
So, and the reason why I put it on my website is because in case something happens to it, I always like to archive things that I think that are important in case something gets scrubbed, right? So it's always good to have multiple copies of, important things like that. So I embedded it onto my website. I did make copies of it also, just in case something happens to his channel, which you never know.
Right.
Anyways, Dr. Brian, have you watched that?
We've watched the first one. Yes, we watched the first one.
Yeah, the first one. So have you talked about it on your show?
I think I did when it first came out. I haven't talked about it since then, but I've talked about it a couple of times. Yes.
Okay. I guess someone recently sent me part 2, which is why I rewatched part 1 again, because I didn't want to watch part 2 without watching part 1. But anyways, he talks about the link between the vaccine, the virus, and remdesivir. And he talks about how the same company that manufactured, I think it was remdesivir, was a company that also had the project of mapping out all of the DNA proteins of rat venom. And there were, guess how many that they found? 19. And so his theory is that basically it's not a virus, but that it is did I say rat venom? Snake venom, not rat venom. Yeah, snake venom. And that in the very beginning, they were trying to figure out, what is COVID-19, and a lot of theories were like, okay, could they come from bats? Another one was they come from snakes, and then there was this third theory. I don't remember what the third theory was. And right away, all the news sources would shut down the snake theory. Like, no, there's no way it comes from snakes. And they let the bat theory go on. It's very interesting. And something that he said was, if the FDA or the media or the CDC or the WHO, if they say something, you probably want to just do the exact opposite or believe the exact opposite. So the fact that they were shutting down, they didn't allow, they were banning, they were censoring the snake theory. To me, it's like, why are they not allowing this theory to be discussed? They just false news. And we all know anything that's false news is probably the truth. Very often, especially when it comes to things that are very important. And he talked about how there were reports of how they found that people who smoked were less likely to have severe symptoms and die of COVID. And people, and a lot of scientists were baffled. They were like, "Why is it that smokers were safer from COVID than non-smokers? It should be, you would think intuitively it should be the other way around, because smokers have problems with their lungs and they already are getting health problems because of the nicotine." But he was explaining it's because that both nicotine and snake venom, they both latch onto the same receptors in your body. So if they're already clogged up with nicotine, then there's nothing for COVID to latch onto. It's a very interesting documentary. He gives a lot of evidence, a lot of proof, both in his first and second videos. But one of the things, the reason why it came to mind just right now is because he talked about the water supply, and he talked about how there were reports on the news, and they were saying that after they test the water in a certain municipality, they could determine that a COVID outbreak was about to happen. And he's like, wait a minute, no, that's wrong. That's the opposite of the order that things should happen.
Right.
If they're already detecting it in the water supply, that means that the city or that vicinity should either be in the midst of the pandemic, of an outburst, a big outburst, or they should already be getting over it because they're already expelling it. So what the heck is going on? And his theory, which I think is very plausible, is that they were planting it in certain communities and targeting people in certain communities.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another. I mean, fluoride alone is already one reason to not drink the water, but
Right.
the fact that they're poison, that they can very easily poison us through the water.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got a book. I can't remember where I don't think it's on this shelf behind me, but he's an herbalist. He's kind of like yourself. He has a science background. I'm trying to remember what it was, but he has a science background, and then he retired from that and became an herbalist. And I remember he had funded himself to do some studies on water. Um, and from all over the country, like he was taking samples from all these big cities and stuff, and it was just insane, the stuff that they were finding in water. And it wasn't always just, I mean, some of it could be, described as probably that was sewage and stuff, but there were things that were in water that he said they have to be putting stuff in the water, that this doesn't naturally occur in water, these molecules, these chemicals, these petrochemicals. So yes, the in my opinion, the possibility of them using the water supply to spread things around, it's a no-brainer. I mean, why not? That's how easy is that? I mean, everyone has to have water, so how easy is it to just, spread it around?
Yeah. Our water, our air, they're spraying our air. They've got our water. But that's one thing is like, what can we do about the air? What can we do about the chemtrails? I know that there's some people who are really into that, and they're like walking around with masks all the time. And I just don't want to. I don't want to live like that.
Right. Right.
It's really hard. At least get out of the city. Where there's more trees, they can naturally filter the air. That's one thing.
I think my opinion is because Rivka and I have talked about this kind of stuff a lot, and I don't think I think we're at a place with between the technology and the chemicals and everything that they're doing. I think we're at a place that it's probably absolutely impossible to keep it all out. Like I can't imagine how anyone would say, I'm going to live completely clean and have zero chemicals in my life. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And so I think you do the best you can to limit, because I think our bodies are really, really good at filtering things out. It's not that our bodies can't, it's that it's too much. Like if I don't drink, say, a soda like a Coca-Cola because it's got chemicals in it. But if I drink one once every, a few months or something, is it going to kill me? No, because my body can handle that. I think, as long as it's healthy once in a while. I'm not advising doing that. But the point is that they're throwing so much at us. I mean, a child, if they go to public school, most areas, they have to have something like 72 or 78 vaccines. The chemicals in their foods. I mean, hardly that the average American, their diet isn't even really food. It's, a food-like product. It's not even real food. It's just filled with chemicals. So it's overwhelming people. And I think that's my opinion. When we look around and we see all these people that are just behaving badly and acting like they're lunatics and they're on all kinds of antidepressants and stuff, I have to think that at least in some part, all these chemicals and stuff that's in everything, the air and the water and the food, have to have something to do with that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. Of course, there's no doubt that at least the food. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Has Rivka ever done the carnivore diet for at least a short time?
That's basically what we're doing now for the
you're on the carnivore diet?
Yeah. We're transitioning. I mean, we're not 100%.
It's hard.
But it's most of our meals are probably 70 to 80% carnivore, and sometimes they're 100%. It just depends, like when well, in fact, I've got to here soon in the next week or so, I need to butcher a couple of goats. And so then we'll have a lot more meat, and, we'll be eating more meat than anything. But, but yes, we have switched over to predominantly a carnivore diet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I believe that when people do that, or at least increase their meat intake,
Mm-hmm.
that helps so much with mental health problems.
I believe it. I,
Yeah.
I I feel totally different. And there have been, since we've started eating this way, there have been a couple of times where it was like a special, like a birthday or special day. And we're like, oh, we're going to splurge a little bit. Right. And then the next day, I feel absolutely like garbage. And I'm not talking like splurging as in eating bad food. I'm just talking about splurging as in eating like baked potatoes and this and that. And then, maybe some bread. And then the next day feel like absolute garbage. Personally, my energy levels, I've lost, actually a year this month is when I started weighing myself. So a year ago this month, I have lost about 76 pounds, 77 pounds. And I walk and I work out some, but the biggest thing is we've just changed our diet. And we
Mhm.
weren't eating bad before. It's not like we were eating TV dinners and McDonald's and, that kind of,
Yeah, yeah,
we were eating whole foods before, but
yeah,
it was too much grain. We were eating, pastas and breads and things like that. So we weren't, it's not like we were eating Domino's pizza every night. We were eating healthy. It just wasn't carnivore. And that's really what made the difference, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. It's really interesting. I healed myself of hypothyroidism using a carnivore diet plus certain specific supplements and herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And that all together, I was able, I didn't have to take any tests. I didn't have to take any fake hormones. I didn't even have to go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I just did, supplements, which included iodine. One of the most important supplements, I believe, for thyroid, especially hypothyroid, and selenium and some other herbs, supporting herbs. Of course, there's also my herbal calcium tea that I always take for various issues,
Yep.
and then the carnivore diet. And what I love about God's natural remedies, God's healing remedies, is
Mm-hmm.
when you take a pharmaceutical drug or a vaccine or whatever, anything from them, there's always a negative side effect, right?
Right.
You take a drug, and then it kind of helps with the symptoms, never fully, really. And
Right.
then they have to increase the dosage, or they have to give you an additional drug to, counter the side effects of the first
Right.
drug, and then another drug, and all of a sudden the first drug doesn't work at all, and some of the drugs, even the side effect is that it causes the symptoms that you were trying to get away
Yes.
from, which is
Yes.
wacky. I just don't even. It's ridiculous. So
Mm-hmm.
that's modern medicine, right?
Right.
But when you use God's herbs, God's supplements, God's food,
Mm-hmm.
and I use vitamin C, I use iodine. They don't grow from the ground, but they're still natural to our bodies. Our bodies
Right.
understand what they are, and they know how to do with it. And there's either no or little side effects
Right.
that are negative, but the positive side effects are so
Absolutely.
much. So I only took the carnivore diet for hypothyroidism, and what was amazing is my skin started clearing up. I had
Mm-hmm.
to use less of my herbal calcium tea because my aches and pains throughout my body, also they started going away. And
Mm-hmm.
I still take the herbal calcium tea, but just not as much, which is nice. And so the side effects of going on a carnivore diet was that it healed me of so many other things. And it's kind of like my herbal calcium tea, where I started taking it for my joints that would easily get dislocated, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden it healed me of sciatica, bleeding gums, started filling in my cavities. Like, these are side effects that you want,
Yeah.
and these only come from true, safe, holistic, powerful natural remedies. And
Right.
people are like, well, that sounds like baloney. It sounds like
Mm-hmm.
quackery. And I'm like, it sounds like quackery because they are keeping it from you. Sounds like quackery because Google is scrubbing these things from its search results,
Right.
because if it were allowed to be perpetuated, um, modern medicine would fall,
Right.
and the Rockefellers didn't want that, which is why they set up the whole, modern medical system
Right.
to function as it does right now. And that's why they fund, sponsor, whatever, however way you want to put it,
Mhm.
pay off doctors,
Right.
not directly, but indirectly. We're not giving them money, we're just giving them vacations and
Mhm.
whatever. It's so stupid and ridiculous.
It is.
Anyway.
I mean, part of the oath that doctors take is about food being your medicine, you know? I mean, that's been something that's been actually known for. Well, I mean, it obviously it goes back to the Bible because God tells us that that's what it's for, basically. But I mean, doctors have known that your diet. I mean, it really has to start with your diet. And I'm not. I don't have near the knowledge and background as you do when it comes to, natural healing and stuff. But I always tell people the first two things, because people will ask me questions. Oh, well, what kind of tea should I take? What kind of herb should I take? Now, if you're wanting to do something, if you're taking it for an acute problem, like right then and there, that may be different. But the two things that I tell people, number one, you need to work on your diet, like eat healthy. Because if you're still eating at Taco Bell and Pizza Hut and getting, TV dinners and all your groceries come out of a box, you're working against the herbs, or
Yeah,
the supplement
exactly.
or whatever.
Right.
So if you're still eating these food-like products, I don't know if it even does much good to take anything that's natural. So the first thing I tell people is get your diet in order. Stop eating junk, stop eating fake stuff, stop eating chemicals, seed oils, all this kind of stuff. And then people, especially for people that have lived the typical modern life where they've eaten all that stuff and they've drank the tap water and stuff, you probably need to go through some kind of regimen to detoxify yourself, detoxify your liver, that kind of stuff. I'm a huge fan. I have been for years of Weston A. Price, and I think butter is amazing. And I encourage people eat a lot of butter. I was telling my mother the other night, you don't eat enough butter. You need to eat really good quality butter because it's good for you. And part of it is it helps it helps to detoxify. It gets into those cells, those fatty cells, and gets toxins and stuff out of your body. So people need to, in my opinion, they need to do those kind of things. Focus on your health, your diet. Focus on your diet, and then do things to detoxify. And then when you start down that, then you can start incorporating, a lot of these other natural remedies and herbs and supplements, whether it's to help your thyroid or blood sugar or whatever it is, blood pressure. Because if you're still living a normal, not normal, because that's not normal, the standard American diet, and you're trying to figure out a natural way to deal with blood sugar, I don't know how it's going to work that way. Just my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. It's really funny. Absolutely. Yeah. People are always coming to me and they're like, oh, what herb should I take for this? And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not how it works.
Mhm.
That's the modern medical
Yeah, we're
model.
conditioned to just take this pill and you'll be okay.
Yes. And they want to treat herbs. They want to treat holistic healing the same way. They're
Right.
like, what one thing can I do to get rid of this? What one herb, one vitamin, one supplement can I do to get rid of this? But I want
Mhm.
to live exactly the same way as I currently do. And it's like, no,
Yes.
no, 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 that's not holistic.
Right.
Holistic is you get the whole picture. I need to see
Yes.
everything that you do, everything that you take, even like how do you think? How do you live your life? That's also very important.
Right.
Mindset is very, very important. It's not, you can't, if you treat herbalism or vitamins and supplements the way that you treat, pharmaceuticals, then it won't be lasting, won't be long lasting. Like you said,
Right.
it might help for an acute situation if you take heroic enough doses,
Right.
yes,
Right.
but it's like sealing up one hole while keeping the other holes going on.
Right.
And maybe you're sealing up a big hole, but you still have the other five,
Right.
6, 7.
And holistically, you look at what the root problem is. Say if someone's in their 60s and they go to the doctor because They just feel like they're drowning. They can't breathe. And the doctor checks them, says, oh, you have fluid on your heart, around your heart. You need some kind of diuretic to get that fluid off of your heart. You're retaining fluid. And maybe that works for them, but does the doctor actually figure out why are you retaining fluid? Like what's wrong? Where's the imbalance in your body that's causing your body to retain fluid around the heart? A lot of these allopathic doctors, they don't. They're just like, oh, here, take some diuretics so that you won't have fluid around your heart. And then of course that has all kinds of side effects too. And that's really the difference between holistic health, is that, we're not just saying, well, your blood pressure's high, take this so you have low blood pressure. No, you're looking at it. Why is your blood pressure high? What's wrong? What's imbalance? Where's the imbalance in your life that's causing your body to have high blood pressure? Let's fix that. And that's so foreign, it seems, with modern medicine anymore.
Yeah. And I like to say, sorry, lightning and thunder outside. But it's really hard, I think, for a lot of people to get to that point where they are taking control of their own health.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, I started my certification program at Arukah.com, is because, we can talk about this, but people don't really understand all the implications, right? So, for example, I was coaching someone who was battling cancer, and I was asking her, what is your diet? Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, well, I eat healthy. I eat vegan. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, why do you eat vegan? And she's like, well, God told me to. And I'm like, I don't believe that God would tell you to do something that is killing you. Now, that doesn't mean that, I would be fine with thinking, okay, well, maybe at one point in your life, you felt led by God to start eating vegan. And I don't know where you were in that life. And maybe at that point in your life, you needed to be vegan to detox of something else.
Right. Vegan is good for temporary, for detoxing. I think that can be good.
Yeah. Raw food, vegan. Yes. Mm-hmm. But it is extremely unnatural for humans, omnivores, to do that for a long term. Now, I know, we're both religious. So, of course, there's talk of, in the beginning, all we ate was plants. And in the future, the lion will lie down with the lamb and they will eat straw together. Sure. But we're not there. We're not at the beginning and we're not at the end.
Right.
And in the meantime, God gave us meat to eat. He commanded. Do you hear the lightning and the thunder outside?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I can hear it.
It's distracting to me. Like, I can't even hear myself talk.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. In the meantime, God commanded us to eat meat. And one of the things that really upset me is when people use religion to defend veganism, when that is absolutely not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that the most holy people, which were the Levitical priesthood, would eat meat to serve God in his holy temple. Primarily meat, right? So I really, and I think that it's so much more important that people start understanding that right now, because there's a spiritual attack on us too, where they're trying to take away our meat supply, and they want to push veganism on the whole entire world. And it is part of the Great Deception.
Yes, it is.
It really, really is. And I believe that is why, and I think nothing is by mistake. I think there may have been a time when a lot of people did need to detox through a vegan, raw food fasting. But right now, I really feel like a lot of the health problems that are around today, especially autoimmune disorders and also mental health issues, a lot of times it is because of the lack of nutrients from meat.
Right. I agree. Yeah, that's why we've put a big focus. We have a bunch of chickens and ducks. We're raising our own ducks. And then, of course, we have sheep and goats. And that's because meat is expensive. And I think that's part of it. It's expensive. And here's the funny thing, because, we live out here in the country. We have a lot of beef, guys around here. And you go to the store and you see beef prices going up, your hamburger, your steak, or whatever. These farmers out here, they're not making any more money. And it's after it leaves the farm where the prices start going up. And it's making it difficult for the poorer, the lower levels, from lower middle class to down to eat good and healthy food. It's almost like we're back to the peasant time of the Middle Ages, where
Yeah.
the kings and the lords, they were eating the fatted calves, and the peasants were eating mash and bread maybe, and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how it is. And I think there's a reason. I agree with you. I think part of it's being done on purpose. Fill them full of
Yeah.
chemicals and give them really, really junky food to eat. Their brains aren't going to work properly. They're not going to be in good health. I mean, look at the obesity and the poor health in America today. It's insane, the amount, and it's because of our diets, I believe, predominantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think what you guys are doing is really great in terms of homesteading and raising and growing and slaughtering your own meat.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm not a farmer, but I think that for people who are not like that, I mean, we do raise chickens now, and we get our own eggs, and I hope to educate myself in kosher slaughter soon. I know it's very controversial for a woman to slaughter in the Jewish faith, and also nowadays it's very controversial for just the average person to slaughter their own meat,
Right.
whether man or woman.
Right.
But that wasn't a thing a few hundred years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That only came about because of the kosher industry, which has become an industry.
Sure.
It wasn't an industry before. It was just philosophy.
Right.
And people were empowered with knowledge to understand what is kosher and what is not. And people, Jewish families, were also empowered in communities, at least on a community level, were empowered with the knowledge to be able to slaughter their own meat. More and more, we are losing these kinds of knowledge, which means that we're losing our freedom and our health because we're losing the truth about these types of things, how to slaughter, how to grow our own food, stuff like that. So I really want to be able to one day learn how to slaughter my own animals. But in the meantime, I think it would be very wise also for people who don't have that luxury to at least befriend a farmer.
Sure, absolutely.
And start supporting your local farms and buying meat from them and stuff like that, making partnerships with them, because when SHTF, those are going to be extremely, extremely important.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of times you can get it, very reasonable. A lot of these farmers, like I said, they're not making a whole lot of money. And, if you go to them and you say, hey, can I buy this many chickens from you? Or, hey, if you, raise a cow or a sheep or a goat or something, can I just buy it directly from you, pay directly to you? You can get a lot. Of course, you can get better quality, and the price is actually much cheaper. And then there's the third thing. You're also keeping the money within your community. So you're not paying, Tyson or something like that, some big, corporate company that's part of the problem in the beginning anyways, for your food. So, and then and you're right, there's so much like forgotten knowledge and skills there that, we've, as a society, really, regardless of your religious beliefs or anything, that we've been conditioned that, you don't need to do this. You don't need to grow your own food. You don't need to hunt. You don't need to raise your animals. You don't need to butcher your own animals. You don't need to do any of that. You just depend upon this system. And then here we are. Number one, the system has proven over the last few years to be very fragile, to not be dependable. And then we find out that, oh yeah, and they're also feeding us really harmful things.
Yeah.
So
go
ahead.
I was just going to say there's always advantages and disadvantages to to being independent
Mhm.
versus pooling resources and knowledge and stuff like that. There's
Right.
always advantages and disadvantages to both, but right now we can see that we need to start swinging the pendulum on the other side and
Mhm.
becoming more independent. Now I'm sure you got your audience probably, they're like, of course, that we talk about this all the time. But with my audience and my YouTube channel and my emails and stuff like that, I don't always talk about independence all the time. It's more about, either religion or health. So that's
Mhm.
why I'm enjoying talking about this right now with you.
That's all right. Um, I understand everyone's personal needs are different and what they should do for their own personal health. But if you could advise people, especially knowing what we know now about the past COVID and whatever next pandemic they decide to throw at us and the next vaccine they decide to throw at us, what are some like basic things you think a family should keep on hand? Some basic. You mentioned vitamin C. Things that you should just have on hand for common colds, for, just different things that because I know a lot of my listeners are getting more and more into, herbs and holistic healing and stuff. So is there any suggestions in that area?
Yeah, I do have that. So and I had that prepared.
Okay.
I'm compiling. I'm in the process of writing a short ebook and course of. Let me see. I forgot what I called it. Let me see. And if anyone would like to get access to it, it's called "The Top 10 Supplements You Need Every Day and When SHTF." Okay, so
Mhm.
and you can get that at arukah.com/top10. So it's arukah.com/top10.
Mhm.
Now, it's not complete yet, but I want to talk about just a few things. And I'm going to include both supplements and herbs.
Sure.
And so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is iodine. And I've already talked about it a little bit, but iodine is extremely versatile and helpful in emergency situations.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things that it's really good now and it's really good later, and it's an essential mineral.
Mhm.
It's got a wide range of emergency uses,
Mhm.
and so first of all, you can use it to purify water. We're talking about don't trust their water. You can
Mhm.
use it to purify water. It has microbial properties, and it can effectively kill bacteria, viruses, parasites.
Mhm.
I don't have the exact dosages here with me. I forgot what that was, but basically a few drops of iodine to maybe a gallon of water, something like that, and it can make it safe for consumption.
Mhm.
Another thing, of course, is it's good for wound disinfection, right? And it's good for emergency first aid, minor injuries. If you mix it with water and salt, you can create a homemade antiseptic solution.
Mhm.
And as I said earlier, it's great for thyroid support. Even if you don't have hypothyroid, iodine is really essential for proper thyroid function.
Mhm.
And most people are iodine deficient, and it wouldn't hurt to experiment. A lot of times, people experience this when they take, especially if they, and I wouldn't recommend for people to take high dose iodine right at once, but
Right.
a lot of times people they will take iodine for the first time, and if it's a high enough dose, they will. I experience this. They will experience this. This I think it's called. Some people call it a bing, an iodine bing or zing
Mhm.
or something like that, where it's just this feeling of extreme.
Are you there, Mayim? I think the internet's cutting out. Looks like the storm may have taken its effect on her internet feed. We'll give her just a second. She may come. There you are. Are you back? You
Yeah.
cut out
Sorry.
for just a little bit.
Oh, sorry. What was the last thing I said?
You were talking about the being of taking iodine when you take too much the first time. Did you kind of get?
Well, not
I'm
necessarily
just
too
curious.
much, but a lot, and your
Mhm.
body's like, wow.
Yeah, you've cut out again. I was afraid this was going to happen when the storm started kicking up down there.
And I experienced it the first time I supplemented with iodine. I think I only took about, was it, let me see, I forgot what the exact dosage was. I think it was 500 micrograms. And I experienced it. I was like, whoa, this is exactly what my body needed. I just started feeling super clear in my head. I got like energy. Anyways, and I had really severe hypothyroid. I don't think I've heard of anyone who was like me. I was wearing a down jacket in the middle of summer in Texas. It was like 108 degrees, but I was cold. I was freezing cold. I was outside in the sun with a down jacket on, drinking hot tea because my thyroid was so...
That's bad.
Yeah, it was crazy. People were scared, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to the hospital. I got this. I can do this myself. And iodine was one of the things that was, it's like for acute, for acute problems when it came to my thyroid, it really, really helped. Iodine is also great for radiation exposure. So it can help block the absorption of radioactive potassium iodide, which is a form of iodine, can help block the absorption of radioactive iodine by the thyroid gland, which reduces the risk of radiation-induced thyroid problems. So iodine, you got to have that, and you got to have it now, and you've got to have it in an emergency situation. So please, everyone, get that. Another really important thing that is, I think, and I learned this from one of my favorite teachers in herbalism. His name is Master Herbalist Richard Schultz. I don't know if you've heard of him. You probably have, right?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Most truly woke people have. I'm not talking about the leftist type of woke, of course. But yeah, cayenne is a powerful emergency tool, again, for multiple purposes. Again, for first aid for wounds. I have bleeding issues, and so does my son. I think it's just hereditary for us. When he was born, he had bleeding. He had problems with blood clotting, and they told me, oh, he's he has some kind of blood disorder, and he's blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't need you, And so what we do when we have bleeding problems, like for example, so he had a lot of constant bloody noses when he was young, and so that stopped when I finally started putting him on the herbal calcium tea. But for any immediate bleeding issues, you can put cayenne topically if you have a wound that will not stop bleeding, or you just want to help it clot right away. Just put cayenne powder on it directly. Also, it can help regulate the blood within your body. And if there's any internal bleeding, cayenne can also help you with that. Just take a teaspoon of cayenne. Everyone should always have cayenne powder on them. And then put it in some hot water to make some cayenne tea and drink it down. Sure, it's spicy, but would you rather die? Of course not. So drink that cayenne tea down. It's great for ulcers, internal bleeding, high blood pressure. I have students who they have weaned themselves off of high blood pressure medications. Of course, I can't help them reduce their medication. I can only teach them, formulas and diet theories and stuff like that. But they take it upon themselves when they cannot find a medical doctor that will help them. And a lot of times I always have to tell people, you need a doctor to do anything.
Right.
I have to give that disclaimer all the time.
Right.
Do not do a single thing unless you contact your medical doctor.
Right.
And I try
this
to
is
help
just
them.
For entertainment only.
Entertainment, fortune telling, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So, and I try to help them locate, a holistic practitioner within the area, but oftentimes medical doctors will say they're holistic, and then when you dig down, they're like, no, I'm not going to help you get off your medications. Like,
right.
Okay, just because you recommend vitamins once in a while, that does not make you truly holistic.
Right.
And another problem is, even if they do find a holistic medical doctor, it's super expensive. And I'm not saying that anyone should do this, but I'm saying that my students have done this, is they take it into their own hands to measure and monitor their own blood pressure as they are taking the blood pressure herbs or supplements or diet or whatever they're doing, and then adjust it accordingly. And everyone has the constitutional right to do that, even though I can't recommend that anyone does that. Okay, anyways, pain relief. It's also great for pain relief because it has capsaicin, pain relief. You can apply it topically also with like some coconut oil. I would recommend put so that it can kind of stick onto the area.
Mm-hmm.
And also, of course, consuming it in tea. Cardiovascular support.
Mm-hmm.
It can help prevent heart attacks, really, and strokes. I know a truly holistic medical doctor who uses it in that matter. If someone thinks that or feels like they're about to have a stroke or heart attack, she's like, drink some cayenne tea, and yeah, and it works. I've seen it work. I've seen her do it, and someone like feel like they're about to get a heart attack or a stroke, and drink
Right.
that cayenne tea, and they just relax and calm after that. Respiratory aid and just a nutritional boost. It's rich in vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, and it just supports overall health.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is of course, vitamin C. We already talked about. And so, to make cayenne or any herb shelf stable, all you have to do is put it in some 100 proof vodka,
Mm-hmm.
or 90 proof vodka, or at least 80 proof vodka, and just shake it up and leave it there. And when you need it, pour a little bit out for yourself. I just try to fill it up maybe 50 to 80%. Like let's say I take like a gallon glass, should be a glass container.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fill it up like maybe 80% with herbs, and I mean herbs in their whole form,
Mm-hmm.
not powdered. Okay, in their whole form, either cut and sifted, leaves dried or fresh, um, you know roots, whatever you're wanting to preserve, and then fill it up almost to the top with 100 proof vodka if you can get it, or at least 80 proof. Shake it
Mm-hmm.
up every day for at least 2 weeks, optimally 30 days, optimally. Harvest it on a new moon if you can. That's what Master Herbalist Richard Schultz taught me. And he says that has to do with the full moon and the tides and stuff like that. And I don't know, it could be or could not be true. I just go with it because his stuff has helped me and my family, many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, it's good to be in tune with nature as well.
Sure it is.
God created all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, preserve herbs if you're wanting to keep it for long term in 100 proof vodka. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is another supplement. It's vitamin C. Something that I love about vitamin C is that it's, again, very shelf stable.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, liposomal vitamin C is the best kind, but and there are different recipes out there for liposomal vitamin C, like online and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's people that say, that's not good enough. It's not liposomal, really, unless you do this special process that's extremely difficult to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, even if you can't do the best, you can still do something. If you
Right.
simply consume it with oil or something
Mm-hmm.
fatty, it will aid in that process of, might not be completely liposomal, but it is still going to help in the process of preserving it in your body longer when you are
Yeah.
consuming it with some kind of fat. So vitamin C and therapeutic. Okay, a lot of times people get things wrong when they do not take what Master Herbalist Richard Schultz calls therapeutic or heroic doses. You have to take heroic doses. So let me tell you what the heroic dose of vitamin C is. According to my teacher in orthomolecular nutrition, his name is Dr. Andrew Saul. He's not a medical doctor, but he's a PhD. And he learned from another scientist called by the name of Dr. Linus Pauling,
Mm-hmm.
who has passed away, but he was a 2-time Nobel Prize winner and one of the pioneers of orthomolecular nutrition, also known as megadose vitamin therapy. That's when I say that, people kind of understand more.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that now, of course, it's vitamin C. It's better taken with vitamin D and zinc, and quercetin, all that. Just like the Zelenko protocol. But let's just talk about vitamin C right now. Heroic dose of vitamin C, the highest dose that I've heard Dr. Andrew Saul recommend is 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C every 6 minutes to bowel tolerance. And bowel tolerance simply means that you take it so much that you have diarrhea.
Right.
Diarrhea is not bad. Diarrhea is just your body telling you, thank you, I've had enough now. No more,
Right.
please, for today. That doesn't mean that you did anything bad. It means your body is communicating with you. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's very rare for me. it's very hard to like just be there like every 6 minutes. Oh yeah, pop another vitamin C pill or whatever. So I just try to do it when I, if I don't feel good, I'll take some vitamin C. When I think about it again and I don't feel good, I'll take more. I've only hit bowel tolerance twice in my life that I can remember, and I've been doing, negative vitamin C therapy for a few years now. It's very effective.
Right.
It's very cheap. That's what I love about vitamin C.
Yeah.
It's very
We
cheap,
use
very
that in our home
accessible.
all the time. If the kids wake up and they're like, I don't feel good, my throat's sore. Well, take some vitamin C.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other good things in herbs, but like, can you really get your child to take fire cider? I
Right.
can't.
Yeah.
My children don't like that stuff. They don't even like garlic, but vitamin
Right.
C, like, okay, I guess. And even if they have to like break the pill and put it in water and it's super sour, they're still willing to take that more than fire cider, which
Right.
is also, I believe in that, but you just got to do what your children are willing to do.
Right.
And it's shelf stable and it's very cheap as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really love thieves.
Mm-hmm.
I use it for so many things. Rub it on my children's tummies. We put it in water, and then just kind of drink it as a instead of cough drops, just like
Mm-hmm.
a few drops of thieves water in a bottle, and just drink it. I think it works just as good or better than cough drops, and without any kind of junk that you would get from cough drops.
Mm-hmm.
Now, essential oils are hard to make yourself. So another way that you could do it is, of course, again, like I said, is to just go ahead and preserve the herbs that are normally used in thieves and make a tincture out of it. And so thieves has clove. So one recipe, there's a lot of recipes out there, but one recipe is 40 drops of clove essential oil, 35 of lemon essential oil, 20 drops of cinnamon bark, 15 drops of eucalyptus, and 10 drops of rosemary. But if you don't have the essential oils, you could just get all those herbs and don't worry about too much about how much of each. All of them are very powerful. If it's mostly clove and lemon,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever you have, they're all great herbs. And that's something that Master Herbalist Richard Schultz taught me also, is don't worry too much. I mean, a true herbalist, they're just going to use whatever, especially back in the old days, they're just going to use whatever herb is growing outside in their yard or forest or vicinity at the time. So even if you only have a few of those herbs, don't worry. Just, use it, preserve it if you can, in vodka. And so I'm going to continue this this whole conversation. So if people could just go ahead and go to arukah.com/top10, and I will continue to share, these types of
Absolutely.
things, that my top herbs and supplements to have. And yeah.
That's awesome. What? Yes, please go to her website. I'll make sure in this video down below, there's the comment section. I'll make sure to also post a link there, so it'll be easy for you to click on. People probably have already got a good idea about what you do with your Arukah.com, but you've also talked about coaching and students. So just for a minute, maybe just talk a little bit more about what you do over there with your business and how it's helpful to people. I know I think it's a really great thing what you're doing, but if you just want to kind of tell us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Arukah.com, I started it in 2009, just like helping people. Basically, I my title that I use is naturopathic herbalist and holistic life coach. But the naturopathic herbalist part, I use herbalism because that's what I started off with, but also these other things like diet and orthomolecular nutrition with the supplements and stuff like that. And I teach people how to heal themselves, their families, and their communities. And part of I have the personal one-on-one coaching, and then I also have the certification program where people can learn to become a holistic healer. And part of that is I teach online entrepreneurship, because that's for me one of the ways that I have attained a lot of freedom. And I've been able to homeschool and make more money than I used to at NASA Ames Research Center as a computer scientist. And with the whole COVID thing, when that all happened, I didn't have to worry about anyone forcing me to vaccinate to keep my job, because I make my own business. Basically, I help people on a one-on-one basis. None of my clients can tell me to take a vaccine or anything like that. So if anyone is interested in personal health coaching or learning how to become a certified holistic healer, learning the art of naturopathic herbalism, and how to start an online health coaching business, just go ahead and visit my website. And please mention that you heard about it from Travis's podcast so that I can give you a discount, because I love Travis and his wife. They are some of my favorite people in the world. Honestly, we miss you guys so much.
We miss you guys too. The fact that last night at dinner time that your family was the hot topic. The children were, of course, talking about your children, how they miss them, wonder how Leo kept on, I wonder how tall they are. I wonder how, because it's been a while since they've seen, because they're into this who's taller between everyone, so they were asking about, what how your children, like,
we're so short, we're super short.
How tall is he? I was like, I don't know. I don't ask them how tall their children are, but
we're probably like half their size now. Our children.
I don't know. You know how children are. They're a little crazy sometimes. Yeah. At least mine are half the time.
We've got to come out and visit you guys too.
Definitely. Well, Mayim, it has been an absolute wonderful treat having you on. You're gonna have to come back.
Yeah.
And we can do this again, definitely.
Absolutely. Maybe we could do it with Rivka too. That'd be fun.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. And then I'll talk to you after the we can talk later. But I did want to mention the new site that I have, locals, that we're doing a lot of pushing. We can do guest like contributing authors and stuff. So if there's ever anything you want to, an article, it's a way that you post it on mine, and then we tag you and encourage people to go back to your site. So it's a way that we kind of help each other. So if you ever want to contribute in that way, with any of this kind of information, you're more than welcome. But I'd love to have you back on, and we'll have to do it with Rivka out here, and then all three of us. And then who knows, with her involved, I mean, the conversation will go anywhere and everywhere. It'll get crazy.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
It will. Well, thank you so much. And folks, don't forget to go check out her website at arukah.com. She's got her ebook. She's going to have that top 10 list. And then she's just got a lot of good information on there. And maybe, a family herbalist. That's how it used to be. Everyone in the family, every family had a family herbalist. And that's kind of what she's teaching you to be. You're not going to be able to do your own open heart surgeries, but for a lot of illnesses and things, the stuff that might teach
you won't need it. You won't need an open heart
surgery. Yeah. You can take care of your family in a lot of ways. So definitely go check her website out. Well, I think we'll get off of here, but we'll definitely do this again.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayim. And you have a blessed evening. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order. You need to be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and most especially spiritually for the world that's changing pretty rapidly before our eyes. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Shalom.
All right.
So